Hello and welcome to the channel. Today I'm talking about Aristotle and his understanding of the self, and with that sort of his concept of the soul and how that relates. And I was excited to get into this today because our understanding of who and what we are is so fundamental to the way that we think and feel and go about our daily lives. And if you're watching this, you probably appreciate the importance of philosophy. I really enjoy breaking down philosophical concepts in a way that's easy to understand, so hopefully I will get through these ideas rather simply. I'm very fond of Aristotle. I love his philosophy. Almost everything that I've understood of what he has to say is something that I really agree with, really resonates with my life. It's created kind of a foundation for how I understand the world and my place in it. So hopefully some of these ideas really resonate with you as well. Regardless, I hope you take some good knowledge and understanding from this video. And that's it for the intro. Let's get into it. Okay, so some basic concepts that Aristotle had. He said that the soul was the principle of life. And that's kind of easy to understand. I think most of us think of it that way. Someone is alive and we feel like the soul is within them. And then when they've died, it's like something has left. Some life force has left. So that's a pretty easy concept. The soul is something that gives matter the sort of energy and ability to move and be alive. Okay. He also says that the human person is a rational animal. And in order to understand what he meant by that, we have to understand his concept of the soul more deeply. So Aristotle believed that there were different levels or types of souls, that all living things had a soul. So there were 3 levels. The first level was vegetative, so trees, grass, a bush. Aristotle would say that any plant has a vegetative soul. And he said that they had souls because they had these 3 basic tenets. They could grow, they could reproduce, and they could feed themselves. So all plants have a vegetative soul. Okay, then you move on to animals, and he defined their souls as being sensitive, meaning they're one level higher, if you will, than vegetative souls, in that they can do everything that a plant can do. They can grow, reproduce, and feed themselves, but they're also capable of sensation. So animals can feel, right? And we see that even emotionally. Animals have emotions. So he said they have a sensitive soul. But then the third highest one is a rational soul, and that belongs to human beings. And you probably guessed it. They can do everything that animals can do with their sensitive souls, but they are also capable of thinking. They have rational thought. So we don't only have feelings, but we can then think about them. We can decide whether or not they're leading us in a way we want to go. Whereas animals are led pretty much by instinct, and what they've been taught or learned is the best way to behave. And so from these 3 tiers, we can see why he makes the point that humans are rational animals. He's saying we're all in the same general category. It's just that we're capable of rational thought. So we're sort of one tier above. Then his notion of the connection between the body and soul is what's called hylomorphism. He claimed that the soul basically provided the form for the living being. And we have to realize it's very interesting. His understanding here is that the body and soul are one unit. They really aren't separate so much. So he says that the soul is the form of the being or the creature. So for instance, if you have a chair, the essence of a chair is tied to its form. So a chair can be made out of many different things. You could have a stone chair, you could have a wooden chair, you could have a fabric, well, not a fabric chair, but I don't know, some kind of like a cloth chair, right? So you can make chairs out of very different things. What makes it a chair is its form. It has to be designed in a way that it's meant to be sat on. It's even possible someone could design a chair that you would have a hard time recognizing, like if we wanted to get really artsy and creative with it. But at the end of the day, its form, its purpose is to be sat on. It is a chair. So you would say the essence or the form of chair has to be there in order for it to be what it is. So the same thing goes for human beings. Our soul is what gives us our form. And so our bodies and our souls are absolutely connected. They're very intertwined. And our soul as our life essence is also what gives us our ability for rational thought, for like making decisions and having feelings, and all of this sort of life force is tied to and through our bodies. So the body is important as well. I think he would say the body is as important as the soul because it allows us to participate in the world in which we live. So you have both, and they're very deeply connected, so that the self, the human person, is a soul and a body. It's a unified creature. So if you've heard the song by The Police that's Ghost in the Machine, I think they have a whole album called Ghost in the Machine. The whole concept is, oh, I'm like a soul trapped in my body. Aristotle would say, no, you're not. The two are connected. Your soul is informing your body, and your body is connected to your soul, and we are one unit. Personally, one of the reasons I love this concept is because it gives a lot of credibility and purpose to the body. I think it's easy for us today to put a lot of emphasis and priority on like our minds and our ability for thinking and doing rational thought. I think there's an inclination to sort of disregard or pay less attention to our emotions, to pay less attention to our bodies overall. I have a whole video here on being more in touch with our bodies and our physical form because I care so much about it. It's so important to our ability to be happy, healthy humans. I think in many ways today we wish we could sort of divorce ourselves from our bodies because they feel pain, they're kind of tedious to take care of, it's not very efficient. But if you flip it the other way and you see that your body is as important as your soul and that the two are very clearly linked, it gives all of this dignity and all of this beauty to having a body. And at least for me, it becomes kind of exciting and like fun to be a part of, to be like, oh, this is me, this is part of me. And for those of us who have a really hard time with our physical form, that can be burdensome. We feel like, yeah, but I don't like my body. Maybe I love the way I can think. Maybe I love my sense of humor. I love these other traits about myself, but I don't love my body. That's hard, right? And Aristotle would say that's like a deficiency. We want to heal that. There's something wrong there. Like we want to be taking care of our bodies and have them be an important inherent part of our lives, because to think otherwise is untrue. He would say that it would leave like this division in yourself if you're not connecting the two and like really living in both. So that's part of why I'm such a big fan of this in particular. He also, with his notion of forms, right? So we talked about the chair having a form. You do the same thing for a tree, right? There's a way you have the seed and it's going to grow into a tree. Like it has its set form. So he also has this notion of what's called the ideal form, where Aristotle believed that everything had an ideal form it was reaching towards, and that the same is true for humans. And that's how we get into virtue theory and his notion that the way we live our lives, we should be always striving to be our ideal self. And it has to do with being more kind and generous and living virtues a certain way. And that's a whole theory. I want to do another video, hopefully next week, on virtue theory. So hopefully there will be a link to that here eventually so that we can get into his concept of what it is to be like virtuous and be an ideal human, because that's actually my favorite part, and the part I find most energizing and exciting about his philosophy is that there's something we're striving towards in our lives all the time. I think that's really beautiful and inspiring. And tied into this with this idea of virtue theory and ideal forms, I did a video on authenticity, like how to be or discover your authentic self, and that has to do with Aristotle's philosophy, so that one's here. You can check that out if you're interested. But in terms of just a cursory, like simple look at Aristotle's understanding of the self and kind of the connection between the body and the soul, that's what I had for you today. I hope it's helpful, like a little bit enlightening. If you like this kind of content, by all means, please subscribe. I put something out every week related to philosophy or maybe psychology, a little bit to do with the arts because I have a theater degree and I think that's fun. Either way, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.